Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
It's great to be here.
Today, we're diving into something that's super relatable, I think, for pretty much everybody who listens to the show.
Oh, for sure.
Like it or not, we're all learners in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
And so we're always grappling with this idea of, okay, I've got to learn this new thing.
Nay.
I've only got this much time. How do I use my study time as effectively as possible
Yeah.
so that I can actually remember this stuff later on down the road?
Mm-hmm.
And on the surface, it seems like a pretty simple question, right? Like, I've got X amount of material, Y amount of time, figure it out.
Yeah, just like plug and chug.
Right. But as we're going to find out in this deep dive, based on a really, really fascinating research article that we've been reading,
Yeah.
it's surprisingly complicated.
Yeah, it is much more nuanced than you would initially think.
Yeah, and so to kind of get us started thinking about this, think about your own experience, right? Think about when you're faced with having to learn something new, whether it's for work, a new skill, a hobby, something you're just curious about.
Right.
You've got this new set of information, and you have to make some decisions about where to focus your energy.
Right.
Do you jump right into the hard stuff? Do you
That's true.
spend more time on what feels a little bit easier? Maybe review the things you already know.
Yeah. Do you go breadth first? Do you go depth first? How do you approach it?
Exactly. And this deep dive really tries to figure out whether or not those decisions we make about how we spend our study time, whether those actually have an impact on how well we learn.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And so the article that we're looking at, that's sort of the foundation for this conversation, is called "Can Learners Allocate Their Study Time Effectively?" It is complicated. It is a very catchy title. I love it.
It is.
And it was published in Educational Psychology Review, and it really gets into this idea of what's called self-regulated learning. So the choices you make about what to study, when to study it, how much time to spend on it, and how all of that impacts how much you remember in the long run.
Yeah, so that idea of self-regulation, that's kind of our jumping off point for this conversation.
Yeah, so let's start there.
Okay.
So self-regulated learning, this basically means you're in the driver's seat.
Exactly.
Right. You have control over how you study,
Right.
when you study, what you study,
Mm-hmm.
how much time you spend on each thing.
Yeah, you're setting your own schedule.
Yeah.
You're choosing what to focus on.
Yeah, and it seems intuitive, right? Like you're the one who knows yourself best.
You would think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know where you struggle, what you need to spend more time on.
Right.
So giving learners that control seems like, well, that's the obvious thing to do.
Yeah, it seems like it would be the most effective way to learn.
Yeah. And generally research shows that this sense of control is beneficial.
Yeah.
It does actually lead to better learning outcomes when learners have a sense of autonomy over their study process.
Right. There's a but.
There's always a but, right?
Yeah.
So this is where things get really, really interesting.
Okay.
The review article asks this kind of central question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you use how you allocate your study time to actually overcome the difficulty of some material?
Yeah, so it's not just about, you're in control, you get to choose, but can you leverage that control to actually master those really difficult topics?
Right. Can you spend enough time on the hard stuff to understand it and remember it just as well as the things that come easily?
Yeah, can you level the playing field, essentially, just by choosing to spend more time on it?
Exactly.
That's the question.
The million-dollar question.
Right.
So, and this is where I think some findings that might seem kind of counterintuitive come into play.
Yeah.
So the main thing that this review is getting at is that while self-pacing and being able to choose what you study absolutely has advantages,
Yeah.
learners typically can't fully compensate for the difficulty of material just by spending more time on it.
It's not as simple as just like, okay, this is hard. I'm going to spend twice as long on it, and then magically I'll know it just as well as the easy stuff.
So let's unpack that a little bit, because
Okay.
I think that's a really important point.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that even if I consciously think to myself, okay, this is a really difficult concept,
Right.
I need to dedicate extra time to studying this,
Mm-hmm.
that extra time alone might not be enough to bring my understanding and memory of that concept up to the same level as something I found much easier to learn?
That's exactly what we're saying and what the research seems to show.
Wow, okay.
So that difficulty of the material, it seems to have a lasting impact on how well we retain it,
Okay.
even when we try to compensate by putting in more time.
So how did they figure this out? Like, what kind of research are we talking about here?
Yeah, so the review looked at a bunch of different studies,
Okay.
and a lot of them compared learners who who had control over their study time
Okay.
with learners who didn't. So one group gets to choose how long to spend on each item. The other group, it's kind of predetermined for them.
Got it.
And they looked at whether that difficulty effect, like how much harder material is to remember, whether that was reduced or eliminated when learners had control over their study time.
So essentially, can they compensate for that difficulty by just choosing to spend more time on those items?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the evidence suggests incomplete compensation.
So even with that extra effort, they can't fully overcome that initial difficulty.
It seems that way.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, that throws a wrench in things.
That does.
It's not what we intuitively expect.
Right. Like I would assume just more time equals better understanding.
Yeah, more time, more learning.
Regardless of how hard something is,
Yeah, just power through it.
if I just put in the hours, I'll get it.
Exactly.
But that doesn't seem to be the whole story.
It's not the whole story.
So what does that tell us? Like, what does this tell us about learning and how we should be thinking about our study time?
Well, it leads to some interesting questions about some of the existing theories
Okay.
of why we study the way we do.
Okay.
So there are these models that try to explain, why do we allocate our study time this way or that way? And the review actually dives into those a little bit and suggests a couple of alternative explanations to kind of account for this incomplete compensation that we're seeing.
So the researchers are suggesting that the current theories about how and why we allocate our study time the way we do those theories might not fully explain why we can't just outstudy difficult material.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so what are some of these alternative explanations?
So one of the big ones is that learners might not always be effectively regulating their study strategies.
Okay, so it's not just about how much time we're dedicating, but it's also about how we're using that time.
Exactly. It's the how, not just the how much.
Right, so like just staring blankly at a really difficult equation for an hour
Right.
is not the same as actually, working through practice problems or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Just allocating more minutes or hours, it doesn't guarantee a deeper understanding. It doesn't guarantee that you're actually encoding that information into your memory
Yeah.
effectively.
And I think we've all probably experienced this.
Oh, yeah.
Right, like I know I've been guilty of just like rereading my notes over and over again.
We're just hoping it'll sink in.
Yeah, thinking that repeated exposure will magically make it click.
Yeah.
But then realizing later on that, no, I didn't actually understand the core concepts.
It's a very common experience.
Yeah, and so the review suggests that even when we recognize that something is difficult, we might not actually be choosing or using the most effective learning techniques for that type of material.
Right. And that can be for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't know the best strategy.
Right.
Maybe we're just kind of defaulting to what's familiar, even if it's not the most effective.
Right. Or maybe it's just more comfortable to do the easier things.
Exactly.
And that leads to this other really interesting phenomenon that they talk about in the review. Okay.
It's called the shift to easier materials effect,
Yeah.
which basically means that when we're faced with something really challenging, we might subconsciously or even consciously start focusing more on the easier things,
Right.
even if those easier things aren't actually the most important for our overall learning goals.
Yeah. It's like we're kind of avoiding the hard stuff.
Right. And that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Because it feels good to work on what you're already good at.
Yeah. You get that sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm making progress. I'm checking things off my list.
Right.
But it might be that we're avoiding the stuff that really requires us to, dig in and wrestle with it a little bit.
Exactly. And that could be another reason why just allocating more time to the hard things doesn't always work. Because we might have the best intentions, but in practice, we're kind of drifting back to the familiar,
Right.
the less challenging stuff.
And so all of this really seems to be connected to this idea of metacognition,
Yeah.
right? Thinking about thinking.
Yeah. Thinking about your own
Yeah,
learning. Yeah. So how does our awareness, or sometimes lack of awareness,
Right.
of what we actually know and don't know, how does that influence how we allocate our study time?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
So those inaccurate judgments of learning,
JOL.
JOLs, yeah, you got it.
I've been reading the research.
Yeah, those can really throw a wrench in the whole system.
Yeah.
Because if you think you understand something,
Right.
maybe it feels fluent when you're reviewing it.
Right. Like, oh, yeah, I got this.
Exactly. And then you're less likely to spend time studying it,
Yeah.
even if your actual understanding is shaky.
Yeah. I've definitely fallen into that trap before.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Where you kind of like skim your notes and you're like, yeah, I remember this. I remember this.
It feels familiar.
It feels familiar. And then you get to the test and you're like, oh,
Blank slate.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't actually know this.
And that's that idea of retrieval fluency.
Okay.
how easily information comes to mind while you're studying. And researchers like Benjamin Bjork and Schwartz have shown that that feeling of fluency can be a really misleading indicator of how well you'll actually remember something.
It makes sense, though, right? Because if it's fresh in your mind, it feels easy.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean it's actually been encoded in your long-term memory.
Right. It might just be sitting there in your short-term memory, ready to be forgotten.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
It is frustrating.
So we might be, spending all this time on stuff that we think we know,
Right.
but then totally neglecting these other areas that we really need to focus on.
Yeah, and then we wonder why we're not doing well
Exactly.
on the test or the real world.
Yeah, and this really, I think, highlights what the review is saying about self-regulated time allocation being only one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
So the how of studying the specific strategies we're using,
Right.
those might be even more important than just deciding to spend more time on a topic.
It's not just about the time. It's about how you use it.
So this kind of brings back to what you were saying before about study strategies.
Yeah.
And there's tons of research out there on effective learning techniques.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We're talking about things like retrieval practice, spaced repetition.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
These strategies that seem to have a much bigger impact on long-term learning than just sheer study time alone.
Right. Those are the things that actually force you to engage with the material.
Right.
To really think about it.
And to figure out what you don't know.
Exactly. And they help you build those stronger memory traces.
So as you're listening to this right now, think about your own study habits.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever spent hours and hours studying something?
Yeah.
Feeling like you're putting in the work.
Right. Really grinding away.
And then you still struggle to remember it later on when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of so many times when I've done that,
Oh, yeah.
spent hours rereading this one chapter for a test.
Yeah?
Thinking I was making progress.
Yeah. Highlighting everything.
Yeah, feeling good about it.
Right.
And then I get to the test and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Crickets?
I don't remember any of this.
Yeah. And it's like, where did all that time go?
I know, right?
What was I doing?
So it sounds like maybe those experiences are an example of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. It's that disconnect between the effort and the outcome.
Right. And I think that's a really valuable insight because it suggests that just relying on our gut feeling
Right.
to allocate more time to difficult material isn't always the most effective approach.
It's not a guarantee.
Yeah. So let's try to pull all of this together.
Right.
What's the key takeaway here? What do we want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the main takeaway is that while having control over how you study is a good thing, and it does have benefits.
It's not a magic bullet.
It's not a magic bullet.
Yeah.
It's not like just because you get to choose how you study, you're automatically going to learn everything perfectly.
Right.
It takes more than that.
Yeah. So just deciding to spend more time on something difficult doesn't guarantee that you're going to overcome that difficulty and remember it better later on.
Yeah, you need more than just time.
Right. And so what's the more?
The more is effective study strategies
Okay.
and a really accurate understanding of what you actually know and don't know.
Metacognition.
Metacognition, exactly.
So being able to accurately assess, like, am I actually learning this or am I just
Right. Are you just fooling yourself?
fooling myself? Yeah.
Yeah.
So those two things combined with how you choose to allocate your time, those are all really important pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted thing.
Yeah. So here's a question for everyone listening.
Okay.
How do you currently decide where to focus your study time?
Yeah, think about it.
Are you just going with your gut? Are you going with that feeling of familiarity?
Right. Does it just feel easy?
Yeah. Or are you actively trying to assess your understanding and prioritize what you study based on both how difficult it is and how important it is?
Yeah. Are you being strategic about it?
Yeah.
Or are you just kind of winging it?
And maybe even more importantly, how might incorporating some of those more active learning techniques that we were talking about alongside how you manage your time, how might that help you learn more effectively?
Yeah. Because those techniques, they really make a difference.
Things like quizzing yourself, spaced repetition, all that good stuff.
Yeah, they forced you to think harder.
Right. And the research really backs this up.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're interested in learning more about this,
Yeah.
we definitely encourage you to dig into some of those concepts we were talking about: metacognition, effective learning strategies,
Retrieval practice,
spaced repetition.
and all that good stuff.
There's so much great research out there that can help you become a more strategic and effective learner.
For sure.
So we really hope this deep dive has given you some new insights into this whole world of study time allocation.
Yeah. It's more complex than it seems.
It really is. And it's a good reminder that learning is an active process.
It's not just about putting in the hours.
Right.
It's about being deliberate.
Being strategic.
And figuring out how your own mind learns best.
And using the right tools.
Yeah, thanks for taking the deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.
See that?